Okay, so this week I'm doing something a little bit different, which is bringing different experts' ideas and something that I learned that, this is golden nuggets. I'm calling golden nuggets of different spiritual teachers that I have studied with and learned from, and sharing my interpretation of how that, wisdom helped me, and sharing my interpretation so you can apply on a day-to-day basis. And today, I want to share about Neale Donald Walsch, who wrote Conversation with God. So I encountered Neale's material when I was 17. I would consider him as my first spiritual teacher, although his book that I read was my second book. Actually, technically, it was my third book, but second book, right? The first one was James Redfield's Celestine Prophecy. And then after I read that, I felt really called to because I found that book in the bookstore when I was living in Japan. And then the story of that book was about Peru, and I grew up in Peru, and there's no coincidence. So I felt really drawn to. And then right next to that, I was really exploring spirituality because I wasn't enjoying any studies in school, or I rather felt like it was not valuable for me, and I was going to a bookstore after my university, high school university, and I dove into it. So, Conversation with God, Neale Donald Walsh. One of the things that he said that at the beginning, I didn't really pay attention to it because I personally felt like there wasn't any too much of the meaningful words in that, that spoke to me. But then the more I listened to what he was saying, I felt like this sentence captured a lot of stuff that reveals how people are trapped in the opposite. Okay, so the sentence is, life is not about you, but it's about everybody else whose life you touch. So he said, your life is not about you, but it's everybody else whose life you touch. And when I first heard that, I thought, well, that's interesting. That sounds nice. That's what I thought when I heard something. That sounds nice. But what does this really mean, right? So he said, my life that I'm living and I'm creating has nothing to do with me, which is very interesting, right? But has everything to do with whose life I touch. So the way in which I interpret this magnificent wisdom is there's a couple different aspects of it. But first of all, people tend to make things about themselves. And let me give you an example. So public speaking is one of the things that a lot of people fear. Yeah. People fear public speaking, speaking in front of people. Why? Because they're worried about how the audience will perceive yourself. Yeah. So that reaction and the instinct of fear is dependent upon you subconsciously focusing on yourself to protect your identity, to be accepted, to be acknowledged, to be included. Because if you don't think that you did a good job, in your mind, that presentation, public speaking, will result in not being accepted by the world, whatever that meaning that you make, right? So that's what I mean by making things about you. So if we flip that and apply what Neil is saying, your life is not about you, but it's about everybody else whose life you touch. So let's say if you have an opportunity to speak to many, many people, and you have a message and a voice and a story that you have lived, and you are there to share. And if you focus on how you can touch using your wisdom to each and every person who is sitting, then you're giving, the act of giving is for them, right? But you're conducting the act of giving, but you're worrying about yourself, how you're being perceived, right? So that's what the piece of this is that's what it means. This is just an example of public speaking, but I would love for everybody who is watching to apply to different situation. Most of the time, when we get anxious about something or when we create a fear-based emotion inside of us, most of the time, which is almost 100% of the time, you're making that thing about yourself. You're making that things about yourself. So for instance, like I'm in the coaching industry and coaching, online coaching is a sort of like a fast growing industry right now. And then we have programs that we enroll people, right? And sometimes when I work with newer coaches, for developing coaching programs, sometimes people start with, I don't know, 297, and then people have this 997 stuff, and people have $2,000 and $3,000 stuff. And they have this sort of relationship with money itself, but also they have this relationship with how they will be perceived by other that's happening inside of them, and they don't feel secure and confident enough to present that price to the other person candidate. And the moment you hesitate to present the price, actually you're making it about yourself, even though the price is only exchanging energy of the path that you're offering to create a radical, meaningful transformation. It's about them, right? Everything is about them. And when we begin understanding that we live in this sort of interactive universe where you cannot exist without the existence of others, right? Your individuality is dependent upon the interaction and the relationship, because all sense of self identity is born through relationship and the interconnectedness with others. And then we have this gift that we're crafting and we want to express that to the world. So here's the thing though, people not being able to express yourself out loud and wants to be hiding and then live their own life on the sideline instead of being the main character of your life. That is by making things about you. Because we are here, the soul is here, given the body to express fully, like a full expressiveness, like the plant is expressing, right? The seed grows into a flower to express fully. We are part of nature and no different from that, right? So the soul seed is here to express its gift and the art that we're here to cultivate. So I cannot control anybody's desire, right? So you want to have and tap into and identify clearly what your desire is in this life, but then you don't want to limit that desire based on making things about you. Does that make sense? You don't want to limit your desire to keep it small because you're internally making your life about you. You're here for a reason to express the gift that you're meant to cultivate so that you can touch others, right? A lot of the things that we do to develop and cultivate inside of us is absolutely meaningless unless we have somebody to share to. So that's the cycle. The giving and the sharing is the looping of the cycle, because we feel insecure, and then we gain confidence and we start working on ourselves and we start cultivating our gift and all that. And if we don't have any platform or stage or opportunity to share to others, it's absolutely meaningless, right? That's why your existence, our existence, individual existence, requires the presence of others. And that's why our life and expression, and ultimately to give to others, the growth of us, the remembering of who we are here to be, has nothing to do with ourselves. Because then we can become aware of that and remember that to be an expression, so that that light that you're expressing can impact others to see their own lights, to be able to create this ripple effect of circulation, so that ripple effect creates a uh, wholeness in this physical world. That's what we're here to do. So your life is not about you, and we want to sort of examine on a day-to-day basis any hesitation that we have. Most of the time we're making things about ourselves. So we want to kind of self-reflect out our own behavior and the thinking pattern. And then we want to ask ourselves, what is it that I am making about me when I can make about helping and offering and giving to others, and then begin doing that things that you feel so good. So today I wanted to present the golden nugget by my first spiritual teacher, Neale Walsch, and that is your life is not about you, but it's about everybody else whose life you touch. I want you to apply this. See you in the next video.